Tell you what, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this snow feller.
Hey friends, this is Angela from Art of Creation Homestead, and welcome back to our kitchen. We are still doing Christmas treats, and what we are doing right now is a classic iced sugar cookie. But this is like a super simple version of an iced sugar cookie. Super simple, super quick, not a whole lot of ingredients. So let's get started. In this bowl, I am using my KitchenAid mixer. You can just use a hand mixer, it's fine. In this bowl, we have 1 stick of softened butter. You want it softened to room temperature. If I can knock some of this off here, I will show you. When you push on it, you want it to give. See? Where it's just smushing under my finger. That's how you know it's nice and at room temperature. And we have 1 cup of powdered sugar. No, we are not using granulated sugar for this. We are using powdered sugar. So, now we are going to cream these together until they are nice and creamy. Now we are all nice and creamy, and you want to be sure and scrape down your bowl. Make sure that everything's incorporated well and that there's no powdered sugar up the side of your bowl. So you want to make sure everything's incorporated. And make sure you scrape down the stuff off your paddle as well, because sometimes butter will have a tendency to go up the side of your paddle, and then you will have butter that's not really been beat or incorporated very well. So now we are going to add in 1 egg and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And you guys know I never measure vanilla. I love vanilla, so it's roughly measured vanilla. So now you want to whip this until the egg and the vanilla is all incorporated. This should take about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, it's all incorporated now, and you want to make sure you get, as you can see, there's some butter still left on your paddle. You want to make sure that you get all that butter down in the bowl so that it can actually get incorporated in with everything else. Once you get all that butter scraped down and into your bowl, then you will want to give it another little turn so that it incorporates that butter in. Because you don't want those chunks of butter, you want everything nicely mixed in. Okay, we have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and we have about 1/8 teaspoon of salt. And I have that on some wax paper, and I'm going to use that basically as a funnel to funnel it in. And you want to toss your salt in there and just kind of toss it around. That way it will be incorporated into your flour. So now you're going to turn back on your mixer, and you're just going to funnel your flour in slowly. And now it shouldn't take long at all for it to come together into a nice dough. As you can see, it's going really quickly. Now we're going to stop it, and we're going to scrape down everything. Scrape down your paddle, scrape down the sides of your bowl. Make sure all of your flour is nicely incorporated. You do not want to leave any of this behind or leave any dry pockets of flour or any wet pockets or anything like that. You want everything fully incorporated. Now we are going to give this one more little turn to make sure everything is in. Now everything's incorporated. And as you can see, you've got a beautiful dough now. Just that quickly and with that few ingredients. I think that was maybe 6 ingredients. It was hardly nothing. I think with the salt, I think it may have been 6 ingredients. And that's all it takes to make a really good sugar cookie. You don't need a bunch of ingredients. Now you want to get everything off your paddle. And then what we will do, I will be back and I will show you what we do next. Now you want to take an extra long piece of parchment paper and you want to put your dough out on your parchment paper. Now I'm going to take a little bit of flour and sprinkle this so that it doesn't stick, because it will have a tendency to stick. Just get some flour in your hand. I'll show you how I throw the flour. And see, it scatters that way very easily. You want to put your dough out on half of your parchment paper and you want to pat it out. Turn it over and let the flour get on all of it. If you need a little bit more flour, if it starts to seem like it's going to stick to your parchment paper, just throw a little bit more flour. And you want to pat it out to around a ½ inch thick, and after it's chilled, we will finish rolling it to our desired thickness. But right now you want it almost to your thickness. That'll make your job much easier later. So now we're just going to take and we're going to scoop up some of this flour and sprinkle it on top and just kind of rub it on top. That way your parchment does not stick to your dough and tear your dough up, because this is actually a pretty delicate dough. Now you want to fold your parchment paper over the top and just seal it down. You want to fold the edges in and just seal them down all around. You want to put this in the refrigerator and chill it for a ½ hour. It's been 30 minutes and our dough is nicely chilled, but it's not too hard. You don't want it too hard. That's the reason you only want to chill it for 30 minutes. And we had patted it out to about a ½ inch thick. Now we're going to finish rolling it to about a ¼ inch thick. So you want to take it down just a little bit more. And if it starts to crack on you, you can just push those cracks back together. It's fine. Our dough is about a ¼ inch thick now. If you want your cookies to be a little more crunchy, you may want to roll them a little thinner than this. If you want them to be a little more chewy, then you will want to roll them a little thicker. So now we have all different types of cookie cutters over here, and you can just do them round if you want to. You can do them whatever shape you want. I'm gonna start just pushing them in, pushing my cookie cutters in. You want to set them as close to each other as you can get them. That way you can get as many cookies out of this as possible, even though we are going to re-roll the dough. Have to put a star in there. I love stars. And we have a cute little reindeer. We're going to do a cute little reindeer. And we'll do a candy cane. And a snowflake. We have a pretty little mitten. So well, that's actually a big one. That's actually a big cookie cutter. So we'll work him in there. And we have a reindeer face. And that's actually another big one. So we'll work him in. And see, now they're as close as I can get them. So now, as you can see, I've got some more dough here that I can pick up some of these smaller ones and move them to that area. So I'm going to pick up the angel and see, the cookie comes right out. See, the dough is so buttery that it just comes right out. You want to lay them on a parchment lined cookie sheet. You want to put about 1 inch apart because they will expand a little, but not a lot. As you can see, I have 2 different sizes of cookie cutters. I have the smaller ones and the bigger ones. I'm going to put the small cookies on one pan and the big cookies on another pan, just so that I'm sure that they bake evenly. So I'll be back when I get all of these put on here, and I will show you what you do to re-roll the dough. Okay, now we've got all of those cut out and I've got all this dough left. So I'm going to work it back together into a ball. That's what you want to do. You want to use the heat of your hands to work it back into a ball, but you want to work quickly because you don't want it to You don't want that butter to melt so much that you have to put it back in the refrigerator. So you want to work quickly. You want to roll it back into 1/4 of an inch. If you have to sprinkle a little bit of flour on your parchment paper, then you can go right ahead and do that. I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit of flour back on there, because your dough will become a little sticky again. But as long as you work quickly, you should be fine. I have my oven preheated to 375 degrees. And that's the perfect temperature for this style of sugar cookie, because you want them to set quickly without spreading too much. If it's lower than that, they will have a tendency to spread too quickly. So now we have a good 1/4 of an inch again. And we're gonna go back in and do some more cuts. Now you want to re-roll your scraps as many times as it takes to use up all of your dough. So I'm gonna re-roll them probably just one more time is all we'll get out of it. This all depends on the size of your cookie cutters. If you have larger cookie cutters, it will make less. If you have smaller cookie cutters, it will make more. So I'm gonna put a little bit more flour, and I'm gonna re-roll my dough back to 1/4 of an inch. And now I'm gonna cut out some more cookies. Now we have 2 beautiful pans full of cookies. And as you can see, I just took the leftover dough and rolled into a somewhat round shape. It doesn't matter, it still tastes good. And now you want to have your oven racks positioned in the middle 2 levels of your oven. And these are gonna bake just until the edges, just the very edges, are lightly golden brown. You don't want much brown on them at all. Depending on how thick you rolled your cookies, if you roll them about 1/4 of an inch, the way I did, that should only take about 8 to 10 minutes to get that brown. But about halfway through the process, at about 4 to 5 minutes, you want to switch the 2 pans, and you want to put the bottom on the top and the top on the bottom. That way they'll all bake evenly. And I'll show you what they look like when they're done. They're now out of the oven, and as you can see, there's just a very light tinge of golden brown around the edges. You want to leave them sit for maybe a couple of minutes on the pan. Then you want to remove them to a cooling rack, but you want to be very gentle with them. They are delicate. So you want to remove them to a cooling rack to finish. That reindeer can fly.
He's flying.
That reindeer can fly. Must be Rudolph. You want to put them on a cooling rack.
You about to chop down a tree too.
Yes. And apparently the oven's ready. And you want to let them cool completely before we make the glaze to pretty them up. You want to let them cool completely, which will take about a half an hour to an hour to cool completely.
Hey dear, you're such a star. I glove you.
I glove you too.
When they have moose at Christmas? What Christmas moose?
It's the Christmas.
It's the Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Our cookies are completely cool and ready for their glaze. Because these are iced sugar cookies, but it's kind of going to be more like a glaze than an icing. We have 2 cups of powdered sugar here. And to this we are going to add 2.5 tablespoons of water. And we are going to add 1/2 teaspoon. I love the smell of almond extract. We are going to add 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. Now you want to be really careful with the almond extract.
It's not like vanilla extract.
It's very strong.
It's stout.
Now, I will taste it once I do this and see if it needs a little more than that, but I would say 1/2 teaspoon will be plenty, because you don't want it to overpower the delicate flavor of your your simple vanilla sugar cookies, you don't want it to overpower. So you want to mix this together, and it should make a good glaze. It shouldn't be too thick with these measurements, but if it's a little too thick, you can add a little bit more. You can add a little bit more water if it's a little too thick. If it's a little too thin, you can add a little more powdered sugar until it makes the perfect glaze. But it has to be the perfect consistency for what I'm about to show you. I had to add about a half a tablespoon more of water, but the almond extract is just right. Add a half teaspoon, and see, that's the consistency you want. You want it, when you do this, you want it to fall off the spoon just right. Because this is how you're gonna ice your cookies. You're gonna pick up a cookie, turn it upside down, dip it, pull up, shake it. There you go. And now you can decorate with whatever you want. I'm decorating with some white sugar, some white crystal sugar. Now you just keep dipping these. Just give it a good shake to shake off the excess. And be sure and set it on a cooling rack. And make sure you have some parchment paper or something underneath to catch any drips, because you don't want it dripping all over your countertop.
And then we try to sprinkle, it's going to fall down too.
Yes.
So just trying to catch all your mess.
You'll want to let them sit and the glaze to set up really well before you try to eat them. That glaze will actually set up nice and hard. And it will take about an hour for it to set up like that. So I'm going to keep dipping these cookies.
Alright, look at these beautiful cookies Angela's got. She did all that fancy dipping and sprinkling, all shiny, beautiful cookies. But now I gotta taste one. Such a hard job. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this snow feller. See what happens.
He's the headless snow feller.
Yep, he gone. Really good cookies. Oh, it was like a shortbread type vanilla sugar cookie with this just simple icing on it, sugar. This is a nice Christmas cookie, really. Very simple, tasty. It's a break if you want something without being super decadent. It's a good break from that. So thank you guys so much for watching. We do appreciate it. My name is Jason. That's Angela K. It's Art of Creation Homestead. I love you guys. God bless you and goodbye.
Merry Christmas!